All right, we are live with the PKFL Week 3 recap podcast. Tonight, I am joined by Mike Cody, the owner of Hugh Jessel.
Hello.
Mike, how are you doing?
Doing great, and I, all the choice of my name was great during the original podcast you guys did with Josh, where he had to pronounce my name, and he was doing a great job with it. So, I'm happy with the name. It all justified itself.
Yeah, it's always I always try to say Hugh Jessel, so I don't have to say it the way you probably want me to say it. But well, it's great to have you on the pod. For a lot of owners, it's probably the first time seeing you in person, so it is great to have you on. I think you know Berto, you know Schraub, you've met Josh, but I don't know how many other people in the league you know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Unless someone has joined some of like Berto's March Madness Friday debacles, naps as they were for me occasionally. I don't know if I've met anyone else, but yeah, happy to be part of the league. So, hi everyone.
All right, so you kind of brought it up, but where did you come up with Hugh Jasshole and why? Why is that going to be your team name? Like it seems a little strange of a team name to me.
Well, it is. I know you're a Stern fan, so it's a famous call into Riley Martin where they do the birthdays, and Riley Martin is like, "Happy birthday to Hugh Jessel," and that was always in my head, and I figured it'd be a funny fantasy name just because at first people don't see it, and then when they say Hugh Jessel.
Yeah, I do love it, but it is a little bit of an odd fantasy football name, but I love it. All right, let's get into this.
Name. I know it seems like the good teams in the league name it after their daughters, but I'm not going to name my piece of crap team after my daughter. So maybe in 2020, when I'm competitive, I'll change it to.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, so let's get into it. I guess the first thing we'll do is go through your draft. I thought you did a really, really nice job. I assume you heard our preseason podcast. Third pick, I mean, the first two picks, they're going to be running backs. The top two guys went. You had the third pick. Yeah, you probably could have gone with another running back, but to me, it was a no-brainer to take Cooper there. To me, he's a future stud. He's already a stud, to be honest with you. Is that what your thought process was going into that pick?
Yeah, I was hoping. I wanted Gurley or Gordon. I heard the other people. They commented on emails. I think they made the right choices there. So I was hoping maybe one of those guys would fall. I did debate Yeldon hard because I need running backs. I have some young receivers, but ultimately in a dynasty league, and also especially in a league where running backs don't last too long, I needed to take the player with my team, the player who has the best chance to be at least a serviceable starter, if not a stud, for maybe 8 to 10 years. So ultimately, I took Cooper, hoping that maybe some running backs would make it to me in the next round. But then I didn't want to take another receiver, but Parker, I think he was like the 16th pick in the draft, so he was there. I had to take a receiver there. So,
you did have a second first round pick, and you made the trade with Berto, and you got Duke Johnson there. Hasn't looked great so far, but I did like that pick in that position because, again, you needed running backs. He was pretty highly regarded. I think he will get better. Hasn't looked great so far. What are your thoughts on him so far?
Yeah, I'm still hoping he does something. I know Correll's been up and down. I had at the time Terrence West was also on the Browns, so I like the idea of maybe out of 3 people going for the job, I would have had 2 of the chances. Although I did think Correll was decent last year. So we'll see. I think Duke. Again, in this league, if I can just come out with players who could be, random flex options and, bye-week players. So even if Duke just ends up being a change of pace back, it's not a bad pick. But, I hope he gets a chance to get 20 touches this year and see what he can do with that and win the job. But yeah, right now the jury is definitely still out. I've seen guys like this, they don't do anything and then, they're out of the league in 2 years. So I'm hoping he gets at least a chance to show what he can do with a bunch of carries. So we'll see. Not a bust, but I was hoping maybe he'd be a little better.
Way too early to say bust. I think he'll be fine. I like the Devontae Parker pick, like you said. To me, could have been considered the number 2 wide receiver in the draft, and you got him, like you said, at pick 16. Great job there. I also like in the 4th round, or maybe it was even the 3rd because it was a traded pick. or actually, I guess maybe it was Berto's second round pick. I'm not sure. The Cameron Artis-Payne. I know he hasn't played yet, but what's his name? Stewart is always a prime candidate for an injury. So I love getting that back up there. And I know he had some good preseason stats. Do you know why he hasn't played, or what's his deal?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I mean, Stewart's a little banged up this week, so I'm curious to see if Artis-Payne can get in the game. I'm curious if for some reason Stewart doesn't play, if Artis-Payne gets a start or if Fozzie Whitaker's in there. So we'll see. Yeah, it's been very quiet on Artis saying that he's a good, late round flyer. Let me say this. I really wanted Matt Jones, and he almost made it to me. This was before there was a lot of Matt Jones hype. I'd heard about him. I watched him a little bit in college, so I really, really wanted him with that pick there. So I think he might have got picked one pick before me. So that was disappointing because we almost made it back. If I would have gotten Parker and Cooper and then Jones and Johnson, I would have been really excited. So we'll see. Maybe Artis-Payne will turn out, better than Jones, but there's a good chance too that Artis-Payne, I cut him, if he gets a chance and he sucks or he can't beat out Fozzie Whitaker. So, but it was a worthwhile, chance there. And again, obviously my strategy is not to take, I could see why some other teams were picking, veteran players, the Eddie Royals of the world and Kyle Rudolphs of the world where you want to compete this year. But clearly my picks were all going to be about guys with upside who, maybe they win a starting job this year or at least have a chance to compete in the next couple of years. So,
and then your next pick actually threw me off because I didn't have the top 3 picks, and my hope was that somehow I would get the Jets D with my first pick, because I didn't really have anyone that I really wanted to drop, and I knew all the real talent would be gone at that point. So I was a little surprised because, as you said, you're not really going for it this year. So I was surprised that you took the Jets D at that point.
Yeah, I figured, and actually I had the Dolphins. I didn't even give enough consideration to the Dolphins, which is good because they've been terrible this year. So I actually cut the Dolphins for the Jets. I just maybe Bowles as a coach, thinking if he's there for the longer haul, they're going to have an aggressive defense. Obviously, they drafted Leonard Williams. The Revis might not be there by the time I'm good, but I guess I like the future of the Jets a little better and like their schedule. But probably if I would have given it more thought, I may have stuck with the Dolphins. But I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, and then I tried to pick up the Dolphins, and you're like, wait, I dropped them. And I didn't even keep track of the draft as well as I should have, I guess. But
yeah, and they suck, so you're better off that you didn't pick them up.
So let's talk about Josh and I in the preseason talked about your team, but I mean, your team to me is like right on the cusp of like you keep saying, you've said it to me, we work together, you're like, I'm on the 2017 plan. But I really feel I don't think it's that far off if like these guys like a Carlos Hyde, a Lamar Miller. I mean, these are guys that all these pundits are talking about going into the season, like the potential breakout players and this and that. You got Matthews, you got Amari Cooper. I mean, on your bench is deep too. I mean, you got Mike Evans as a wide receiver. Who else do you have?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my bench. My bench is pretty weak. My bench has some potential because that's where there is guys like Artis-Payne and Duke Johnson and, some other guys like watching Tyler Farrell look half decent tonight, Andre Williams, who's still getting some carries. So there's some guys on my bench. And maybe I'm harder on my team. I'm definitely harder. You guys, I'm always surprised that I get a little bit of respect. And, I get some of it is you guys appreciate what I'm doing with going for youth and things like that. But, I look at my bench and, the team some of my players on and I just don't see it. But then, I'm also pulled up. I'm 0-3. Somehow I didn't have the worst record in the league last year, which shocked me and kind of pissed me off. But maybe Cooper. Not that I try to tank. I put in the best lineup every week. I definitely don't make waivers to win every week. But I play starting lineups. But I try to win every week. But I'm surprised I got as many wins as I did last year, and I came damn close to beating you one week. And there was a couple. Almost like. I was like 10 points away from maybe making the playoffs somehow. But then, there's a lot of weeks where I get crushed. And even this week, the first 2 weeks, I would have beaten, and I know we talked about hard luck loser. I would have beaten a lot of teams. I'm just like looking at the power rankings now.
You were the tough luck loser the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and even in the power rankings, I'm ranked number 8. I'm even ahead of Josh and some other teams there, and the breakdown, I'm right around 7. So basically, half. So far this year, I've been beating half the teams half the time. The way the schedule has worked, my 2 good weeks, I went against high scores. Last week, I had a bad week, and I went against a lower score and lost. But yeah, so I guess maybe my team is better than I think. But it's still, I think, mostly based on potential. Bortles is my only QB. Hyde had one great game, and maybe he is going to be good, but the Niners suck. Lamar Miller's been a huge disappointment this year. Matthews, honestly, has disappointed me this year. Evans is back healthy now. That's good. We'll see Deion Lewis, who I picked up on waivers. I know we'll talk about that. I'm hoping, I don't think he's going to be a 25 carry guy. He was getting a lot of it with Blunt out, but I'm hoping he is a functional player, and, who knows what's going on with Blunt. Maybe he can have a long-term role, but there's a lot of question marks. But I do get that if half of those question marks turn out well, that I have a competitive team, but I think most of them are 50-50 or worse, besides Cooper and Evans and maybe Matthews and maybe hopefully not Hyde.
Are you still holding out hope?
Hey, love that. Well, Gordon, yeah, I may as well, right?
He's too good of a talent to just drop back into the talent pool, because I would have slapped him on one of my bench spots probably if I could. So I don't blame you for keeping him on the roster, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I said I was going to drop him in the waiver pool for Brandon Coleman, and I think Bertle picked him. It ended up being like 5 picks before me, and Coleman hasn't done much. So at this point, I guess I'm happy I haven't done it. So I don't think I don't think I'll compete for a playoff spot this year. So we'll see where Coleman is at the draft next year. Where Gordon is draft time next year, and if he's back, I'll definitely hold on to him. If he's in limbo or got in more trouble, maybe I'll cut him, or if someone wants to give me a second or third round pick for him, I'll deal him at that point. But at this point, no harm holding on to him.
So if you had to pick the weakness, I think you said it before, but is it the running back position? Like where do you see your weakness on your team?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I only have 2 legit starting running backs on my team, and Deion Lewis is now already number 3. So that's it. And again, we've talked about this. It's kind of my complaint as an expansion team a lot, but it hasn't been held too valid. And I know you created these rules a lot because of your astuteness in drafting and how you draft running back, but I do think the double flex favors teams that have great running back depth. You and Bertle have that, for instance. So I've been trying to catch up on that, and frankly, I've made some bad trades to try to do it, like trading. So maybe I just got to go with best players available. So things that haunt me in this league is, if I had Dan Herron, Boom Herron is like gone. He was, when we made a trade last year. Basically, I think it was just Hopkins for Herron. Herron was, I think we made it during the playoffs. Herron was the lead running back for the Colts. I didn't think Herron was the next Adrian Peterson. I'm like, sweet, you have a lot of running backs. You're giving me probably running back 6 on your depth. I get a starter. I'm giving up DeAndre Hopkins. At that point, Gordon was not out of the, suspended or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, Hopkins, I have depth at receiver. I'll make that trade. But, basically I gave away Hopkins for nothing. So that trade was terrible. I made a trade with Bertle. I got his picks. It sucked. He ended up winning the league, and we'll talk about, I think, that how he won the league, because he has a rematch with Schraub this week. But, he won that game, goes up winning the league. So his pick is later. I gave him Kelsey, as part of that deal. I got Terrence West back. And again, my goal was, I need some running backs. I need to have at least 3 or 4 starting running backs on my team. And Terrence West is, I think I cut him this week, and he's basically out of the league. So I've made some. If I had Kelsey and Hopkins on my team, which I should, if I wasn't chasing running backs, I think we'd be looking at my team, more favorably. I did get some picks back from Bertle, so if Duke Johnson or Artis Payne pans out, maybe it works out. But yeah, I've been chasing running backs, and they haven't worked out.
All right, last question I ask everyone: if you had to pick a champ today, who is it and why?
No, it's clearly you. Your team, with Brady and Gronk playing the way they are, with all the other, I think you have great depth. You talked about a little a couple times with Josh too when they talked about your team. So I think you have the best depth. And there's a lot of, so far this year, there's been question marks. There's been players getting banged up. Even Bertle has some players banged up. Some of these other teams have some question marks. You're still pretty healthy and strong, and you have the best depth. So I think you have star players. You have the Brady and Gronk combo, and you have, and you have really good depth too. So you can actually afford, except for maybe quarterback, you can, and maybe that's not even that important, but you can afford injuries to most places. So I think, yeah, I think anything can happen maybe in the playoffs, but I'd be surprised if you lose more than 2 games.
All right, that's good to hear. All right, let's move on.
You made a lot of good trades to get there too. You came in with a good team, and you've continually made good moves. So you deserve.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's get into the waiver, because they had at least 25 moves. I stopped. People made some moves today that I didn't track, but let's go into the top of the waivers, because to me, I have to question the pieces. I don't like to keep bringing them up, but the Travis Benjamin pick to me shows that they're just not Pat's not getting it. It's not building to me for the future. It's not the top. He wasn't the top player available. Yes, he had the most points on the free agent board, but that's not the guy a savvy fantasy player is going for, in my opinion. Do you disagree? Agree? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, no, he definitely would not have been. I think you're a little tougher than I am on it because I don't have Benjamin necessarily much behind some of the other receivers who got picked up. Yeah, especially because the pieces have some decent receivers. Yeah, I would have leaned towards a couple of the running backs out there, or Tyler Eifert, definitely ahead of Benjamin. Benjamin would have. I had a list of about 12 guys, and Benjamin wasn't on it. So, but I wasn't looking.
I put in 9 claims, and Benjamin wasn't on it. I mean, that's my point.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that sums it up. And I think I got Hankerson as my second waiver. He might have been my 12th guy, and I think I had Hankerson ahead of Benjamin too.
All right, we won't harp on that. You had the second pick. You took Dion Lewis, which I find you actually told me you were going to do it because we talked before because we were going to do the podcast. I was a little surprised because I would have gone Carlos Williams over Dion Lewis. So what was the thought process there?
Well, I mean, technically Lewis is, Williams is behind McCoy, right?
But McCoy's getting old and he's injured.
Yeah, but I haven't seen. I'm not convinced. Yeah, I consider Carlos Williams was definitely number 2. So I would have, if Dion Lewis went number 1, I'd have been happy getting Carlos Williams number 2. I guess I've seen a little bit more from Lewis. Has had 3 good games as a Patriot. He was good last week until they got a huge lead again, and then they went with Blunt. He's looked good. He's looked quick. He is young, and again, he has. Not that I'm playing for this year, but I guess I like the fact that he's technically, maybe he is the starter for the Patriots. He started all 3 games, even though Blunt's been out. So I guess that was the thought. I think he's looked good. He catches the ball well. I think he'll have a clear role as a third down back regardless. So again, a guy who can maybe for, 3-4 years, at least be a flex play or a bench player for me, even if he's, behind, Blunt, whoever their starter is. And yeah, Williams, I guess he wasn't, a top draft pick or anything. He's technically behind McCoy. And some of these guys, they're flash in the pans, and McCoy retires and the Bills draft, someone else number 1, and Williams never gets his chance. But yeah, it could have gone either way. I can't blame someone for saying they would have taken Williams. And if I was competing this year, I definitely would have taken Williams because obviously he's getting the start this week, and maybe McCoy continues to be banged up.
Yeah, for me, it's the eye test. I mean, I've seen Williams 2 of the 3 games, and he just looks explosive. He looks tough to tackle. Obviously I own McCoy, so I would love to have him, but I didn't. I had the 12th waiver pick, so I knew it wasn't coming to me. But for me, I would definitely have Carlos Williams over.
I've been impressed how Lewis looks, though. He looks fast. He's getting the ball different ways. The Patriots seem to like him, too. But, yeah, I understand that. And honestly, the other guy really and almost the guy I think might have been the best pick, and we'll get to it in a second, is Tyler Eifert. He's young. He's getting tons of targets there. He's he could last 10 years in the league as he could be top-tier tight end next year. I'm not even sure how he was available, to be honest.
I dropped him. I made a mistake.
You have too many players. So I get if you had him, I get it because you just have too many good players. But
I could have dropped. Now, in hindsight, I wouldn't have dropped him. But I was hoping that I didn't know if Polk would end up taking over for Foster there. That hasn't really worked out. I kept a different running. I kept Kadeem Carey, who's now I guess the number 3 in Chicago. That might be a mistake. So I looking back now, I should have kept Eifert over both of those guys. But having Gronk, I kind of had that flexibility. I like to hoard running back. So
yeah, but I think ultimately Eifert might be the pick that is on someone's team for 8 to 10 years as a starter. None of these other guys maybe.
Yeah, he went 1, 2, 3. He went 5th to the Nates. I agree. I thought that was one of the best picks in the waiver round. Just so we don't skip over it, the Sharks. Josh took James Jones. Is this real? Can this guy score a touchdown every game? I mean, it's unbelievable what this guy's doing.
Well, Monday night he was getting more, he was a bigger part. I mean, Adams obviously out. He was more than just touchdowns. He was getting even, passes all over the place. Was cleared number 2 behind Cobb. So and obviously he's great. He was great. Yeah, I know he had a couple of years back where he had 12 TDs. Last time he was in Green Bay, so I think he's good for TDs. But he looked to be more than just that Monday night. So I'm sure if Josh watched that game, he's thinking, yeah, Jones might be 5 or 6 catches a game and a touchdown, and maybe even some long ones. And
but is he only good with Rodgers because he got cut from another NFL team? I think was it the Giant who?
Well, he was on the Raiders. He was on the Raiders. Yeah, he was on the Raiders for a year and a half, and they cut him, which says something. But maybe the Raiders are sort of like me, building for the future. Yeah, and then the Giants had him in camp, and they cut him, and yeah, they may regret that with Cruz hurt and stuff.
So I don't know if it's the Rodgers effect, but whatever it is, he's on Green Bay, so he's got that Rodgers effect. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, so I think for anyone who's trying to compete this year, Jones is a good pick. And maybe and it doesn't mean he's only a 1-year wonder. He could have a couple good years left at Green Bay. So I don't blame someone for that pick.
So the next pick was Satan. Again, someone probably trying to compete this year. Yep. He went with Chris Johnson. I don't love the pick, but I understand it. I mean, Rick needs running backs and flex player. I think Johnson is a good pick at that spot.
Yeah, he looked better. He looked better last week than he has in years. So
the only argument I have again would be going youth. And I looked down the list. A guy I really wanted that Berto ended up getting was Thomas Rawls. Like, Rick needs to start looking to that youth, like the next big running back, instead of taking the guy that's aging and kind of performing now and trying to build for the future. Like, the Rawls pick to me is really nice at the 10th pick of the draft by Berto. It just shows Berto's knowledge and what he's trying to build and what he tries to do in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, my list, and we'll get to your pick soon. I mean, I think my list was Dion Lewis, Carlos Williams, Tyler Eifert, Thomas Rawls, Antonio Andrews. So those were, and then before I got into any veteran players or any receivers, and again I need running back. So yeah, I was hoping somehow I got Rawls or Andrews in the second round, but it didn't work out. But yeah, Rawls is a good pick. I think Stiff Arm has Lynch, right? Is that because the guy with Lynch didn't get a chance, right? For
no, the pieces have Lynch, I think, because I traded it to him. So he could have taken Rawls with the first pick, and I actually would have understood that.
Right, I'm playing this week. Okay, well then I really don't understand.
It just proves my point that he could have taken Rawls with that pick, and I would have been like, "That's a great pick," because he's backing up Lynch. He's got the Seattle running back tandem.
Yeah. So it could have been a pick for a future and a pick for this year all together. Yep.
And then J.R. Rules was a confusing pick to me. Chris Thompson, is he like the third running back in Washington? I don't even know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, he played a lot when they were trailing. So, I mean, maybe he's a third down back. He did look good. I mean, I don't know if they watched the game and saw that he looked good. He's definitely third in the pecking order if they just looked at the stats and picked them. But, a wild card. He looked good. He seems to be a third down back. They look pretty good. So who knows? Maybe he could emerge. But that was a little surprising to me. But yeah. And
then Mr. Minor, surprising. I don't know why you're doing a kicker doing waivers, but whatever.
Let people keep making that mistake. Stop. Except for when Schraub does something stupid. Let it.
And then speaking of Schraub, the Jugs took Rashard Matthews. I never loved him, but to be honest with you, this guy keeps performing. He seems to actually be. Well, until Parker comes alive, he is the number 2 right now, and the Jugs are probably going for it this year. So I kind of understand that pick, another depth position or getting more wide receiver depth there. So I really don't have an issue with that Rashard Matthews pick there.
Yeah, and it's not like he's old, and maybe he ends up being better than they have the young guys there. They have Jennings there, who's obviously maybe 4th on the order. So yeah, maybe Matthews he's playing great. He's out playing Landry, so. Yeah, anyone who's trying to compete this year, you can't criticize it. I mean, I'm hoping that Parker pushes Matthews out, but we'll see.
And then Stiff Arm went with Tyrod Taylor, who has played great. I actually don't mind that pick. I'm not sure it was the best pick or to fill a spot of need for Stiff Arm, but you know what? I'm not going to question him. He could be he's already a top 5, I think, this year quarterback, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case that maybe that's who I should have put in for, given that the only quarterback on my roster is Bortles, but.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I definitely had Taylor. Taylor was probably 7th or 8th on my list behind those running backs I named. So I was hoping to get Taylor too, to be honest, but we'll see.
And then I got Antonio Andrews. Like I said, I put in, I want to say 7 picks, and he was the 7th of the picks. So I was happy to get one of my guys.
Yeah, well, he he seemed to be the main guy last week, so we'll see. I actually don't know much about him, but
I don't know anything about him. I just know that he looks like he's getting the goal line carries, and he seemed pretty explosive last week. And I don't like Bishop Sankey at all. So
yeah, Terrence West is there. He sucks. I know Cobb is hurt, but it didn't seem like he was doing too much. Yeah, I think Andrews is. Yeah, why not? Maybe he's functional for you this year. Maybe he wins the job. Yeah, again, he's the type of guy I wanted with my second pick.
Then the pieces second round with another wide receiver, LaFell. Actually, I don't mind that pick. He's been out, but in the Brady offense, I actually don't mind that pick that much. A little wide receiver depth. I mean, they dropped Josh McCown for him. I mean, I don't know why he was even on the roster anyway.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I had LaFell in a bunch of leagues last year. He was pretty decent. So if nothing else, maybe he's tradable.
Yeah, I think that's a nice pick. And then you took Hankerson there. What was the thought process there?
Yeah, he was literally like player 13 on my list. So the thought process was, I hope I get one of the running backs or Tyrod Taylor and don't have Hankerson, because I have pieces of shit like Terrence West on my team, so I might as well pick someone. So really, my thought process was anyone's better than Terrence West, but I think Hankerson. I know he's not too old. He was around. I remember he was at Miami. He was on Washington for a while. So it seems to be he's taken over the number 2 job. Maybe, I think Wright will obviously be in the mix this year, but maybe with the hope that he's the number 2 in Atlanta in the future, playing in that offense, playing with Matt Ryan. And maybe he's a nice functional player to adapt. I'm not crazy about him. He was deep on my list, but I think he's functional. And, I could plug him in this year during bye weeks if I have to, and, hope for the best. So, but yeah, not. He also, I have to cut someone because when I need a quarterback too, so it could be him.
I mean, I could have probably put my line at maybe even Antonio Andrews, but say it's Hankers. At this point, to me, I don't even think waivers were necessary. I wish. So many in there, but you're right. I almost wish I would have set myself up to have a higher waiver next week. Yeah, I mean, Satan went with Kenny Britt. Rules with Tengin, Mr. Minor with Crockett Gilmore, Satan with Gary Barnage. That's a stretch, in my opinion. Sharks, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean,
I think the Sharks may have been. I don't know what the hell he was. I guess.
Oh, that's a free agent. That's the first free agent pick. You're right.
Yeah, so that's a guy up with a baby at 3:30 a.m. making waivers.
That's right. I told him like the baby advantage. I actually sent him a text that morning.
Yeah.
Like, you got the baby advantage on that one. He's like, yeah, I did. He's like, and I got Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, that shows you his lack of sleep.
Yeah. I did like actually Bilal Powell over like dropping a guy like Bobby Rainey, because if Chris Ivory goes down, I think Bilal Powell is going to have a much bigger role. And
again, he's another guy, if you're trying to compete this year, if you're desperate because of injuries and buys to plug someone into your flex, you plug Powell in, and even if Ivory is healthy, you can get some points out of Powell. Maybe you get a touchdown or something. So I think, again, with this double flex, having some guys like that just on your bench so you can plug in and get some points and hope for the best are valuable. The same with Theo Riddick, by the way, which was
Theo Riddick. I mean, he's getting a lot of touches in the passing game. To be honest with you, I kind of like Roy Halou. It maybe shows the depth of the Nates that they had to drop someone semi-decent to get Riddick. But
maybe I should put in for Halou.
which reminds me, I'll just remind people. Actually, you have to get it in by tonight, so they won't even see it in time. But I guess since you're on it, if you want them, you would have to put a claim in tonight, because the second round of waivers for the drop players.
And that counts again. Yeah, that'll move me back in the waivers for next week, right?
Correct, because it's a running waiver from now on. So once you make one, you drop to the end, and you only move up if someone else makes a pick, basically.
Yeah. Whether you do it Tuesday or Thursday. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then the other ones, Jared Cook. I mean, I think the Lamacas needed a tight end this week, and I needed a tight end because I got Gronk on a bye. So that was it for waivers. I think it was pretty. I mean, waiting 3 weeks, it really made people dive in, and it shows there's not that much available, but there's still some talent available.
By the way, I can see now, I think I told you today that I wanted to, my commute's about 35 minutes, and my goal was to make this podcast something I could listen to in my commute and be that the example. But now I see, and maybe it's just because I'm a fantasy nerd, how you start talking about this stuff, the next thing you know, it's a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, we try to get through it quick, but you gotta. I
Yeah.
just go with the flow. So
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's fun to talk about it. So yeah, I'm not. It's I see how it goes, and it's fun to listen to. It's just it's just.
all right, let's get into the games. The first game I had on the agenda was Satan versus Mr. Minor. It was the game of the week because it was a tight matchup. It actually came down to Sunday Night Football. Mr. Minor had a 2-point lead, and they had Demarius Thomas, and Satan had Emmanuel Sanders going. But Demarius Thomas outscored him 13-9, and it ended up with Mr. Minor getting the win, improving to 2-1, and dropping Satan to 1-2.
Yes, I wasn't paying that much attention coming down Sunday night. I remember, yeah, Thomas had a kind of great catch over the back of whoever was covering him and ran it in, got the big score there. So that's basically what did it. Sanders actually looks like a bigger piece of the offense there. But Thomas made the big play, and yeah, that was the difference in this game.
You're right. I forgot about that. If he didn't have that touchdown, it would have went the other way.
Cardinals D and Olsen were massive in this game.
Oh yeah.
Played against them in other leagues.
So I mean, AJ Green went completely nuts and scored 37 points. Gore looked a little good, back to his normal self at 21. And I wanted to ask you, because I asked Josh, or actually Joe last week, I'm sorry, Luck, he had 18 points, but 2 more interceptions.
Well, he looked terrible. I watched.
Your thought on Luck? Like I asked Joe last week, like does he drop? Where maybe you don't obviously drop Luck, but where is he in the quarterback rankings right now for you? If you're drafting quarterbacks, and like where is he off the board? Like where does he fall?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you tier people, like I think most people, as I did, had Rodgers or Luck top tier. Now it's Rodgers. It's obviously by himself, and Brady probably. So those are top tier, and Luck is deep behind those. So I'm trying to think now. Roethlisberger hurt, Romo. Right now, I would take Ryan over Luck, to be honest. I have a league. Where I have Luck, if someone wants to give me Ryan for him, I'll do it. I would take. I don't know if I would take Peyton over Luck. I would not.
You take Cam Newton.
No, I just.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that's where the line is.
I would take Ryan. I'm trying, and there's got to be at least one other guy like Ryan who I would take over. Still not Peyton. Still not Eli. Yeah, Ben is hurt.
I'm trying to look it up right
now. Ben is hurt. Romo's hurt. Maybe it's just Ryan that has kind of jumped him. But either way, I'd be picking him a lot later in the draft.
And to be honest with you, if Roethlisberger wasn't hurt, I would think I would take Roethlisberger.
Yeah. Breeze, I would not take over him. Yeah, Roethlisberger. Russell Wilson. No, but it's worth considering. Yeah, he said Cam Newton maybe worth considering. Carson Palmer's worth considering, but I wouldn't do it. But yeah, those are the guys.
Not in a dynasty. You can't do it. No.
Yeah, but in a redraft league, yeah. But in the dynasty, you still got to be happy with Luck. But yeah, for a redraft league or for the rest of this year, Luck has not looked good.
So yeah, we talked about you being the tough luck loser for the first 2 weeks, but Satan was a tough luck loser. Scheduling God's not on his side, probably because of the name choice. But
8 teams, by the way, so 8 teams scored 100 points this week, and 5 were over 120. I mean, it was a big scoring week, and there were some big points on the bench too. So this was kind of the week where a lot of players broke out. No huge assholes, but
yeah, the tough luck loser, he only would have beat 6 of the 10 remaining teams, where normally we see a tough luck loser at least beating 8 of the other 10. So
there were a lot of
high scoring week overall. They got a huge week from the Cardinals D, as you said, scoring 28 points. We got Greg Olsen scoring 27. The biggest story for them, though, I brought him up earlier, the Roethlisberger injury. He also has Antonio Brown. Where do you see Antonio Brown now on the wide receiver scale with Roethlisberger out 6 to 8 weeks?
Well, I'm trying to peek at this game a little bit here while we're talking, and yeah, Vic looked pretty ugly. So yeah, I mean Brown, they're going to get Brown the ball. I'm not sure exactly what he's done this game, but yeah, he's. I mean, I still love Antonio Brown, but he's not going to be the same. I think he's definitely. The whole time Roethlisberger's gone, I definitely have him behind, the Julio Jones, Beckhams, Demarius Thomases of the world, but maybe still at back end number 1. But let's see how this game plays out. If Vic The Ravens are a decent D, of course, but where they used to be. But Vic looks. I don't know if Vic will be able to get him the ball, as much as he can. So I don't know if he's on track for his famous 5-catch, 50-yard record here. I'm curious to see where he is for that. Maybe I'll look at the stats here while we talk. But yeah, Brown stock is definitely takes a hit.
And normally Satan probably wouldn't worry about a Roethlisberger injury because they have Breeze, but Breeze is also hurt. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
Satan's having some bad luck. He could be in some trouble here with his 1 and 2 start. So yeah, I think he has a decent team, but he's getting some bad luck hitting them at once here that could put him in a hole.
Because he's got Breeze, like I said, but if Breeze doesn't play, he's got Mariota, and Mariota's on bye. So
yeah. When we talk about this week's games and my predictions, there's a big wild card around his team. Obviously, maybe it's because of health. He obviously hasn't looked great when he's been in there. Yeah, Brown has 4 receptions for 25 yards today. Vic is actually 11 for 13, but just 75 yards.
Yeah, he's going to dink and dunk, and that's why I was hoping Heath Miller would do something, but he's actually not done anything. So
yeah, Bell has like 4 catches, but just 10 yards, but he ran. Yeah, touchdown run and a long run.
All right, next game, we got Stash against the Nates. Stash was supposed to win by 17, and they ended up winning by 50. Puts them to 2-1 and top the Syracuse division. Nate's now 1-2.
Yeah, well, Stash, Aaron Rodgers, 5 TDs Monday night. We saw that. Julio Jones went off again. He's having an amazing year. And when you throw into it, Devontae Freeman gets a start, basically because Cobb hurt his ribs and he somehow scores 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, everything was rolling for the Stash.
Yeah, it just goes back to, they're one of the deepest teams. I didn't even know he had Devontae Freeman on his team. And
yeah, he's been offering him up to trade. He's thrown the name out there a bunch of times, so I think he's been looking to move him. So because he has, I think he didn't have that.
Before anybody falls for that sucker punch, let's make him Devontae Freeman prove himself for a few weeks.
Yeah, well, he was trying to do it before this week, so I'm sure he might be doing it again, or who knows? Maybe he's sold on Devontae Freeman, but I think he wasn't sold last year leading up to the draft because he was looking to move Freeman.
And I also think it's crazy. Again, he's the high scorer 2 of the first 3 weeks. He scored 152 points, and he got 0 from Terrence Williams and a combined 5 points from Alfred Morris and C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, his team, and I was going to talk about it when we get to the predictions for this week. So his team is good, but they have holes, especially compared to your team, I think. So we'll talk. Yeah, so maybe we'll talk.
But if you could put up 152 and have 5 points from 3 of your starters, you're doing something right.
Yeah. But yeah, he has a good team. There's no doubt.
Actually, I want to ask you. You know a lot about fantasy. Alfred Morris, C.J. Anderson. Alfred Morris has Matt Jones, who suddenly looks like a rising superstar. C.J. Anderson just hasn't looked good. What are your stock on those 2 guys?
Well, Morris, except for the game last Thursday, Morris actually looked good. The Redskins were moving the ball well. Morris was running the ball. The game that Matt Jones went off, Morris also had a good game too. So up until last Thursday, and the Redskins didn't play well on Thursday nights, are usually a little choppy on offense. Morris actually looked pretty good. But yeah, obviously Jones looked more explosive. Jones had that fumble. So I think Morris is still, and especially in the double flex, Morris will be a solid starter for Bertle. And I think the Redskins are going to stick with him. Maybe he's not going to get 20, 25 carries. Jones will be in there. Anderson, I'm a little more worried about. This is a guy I kind of like going into this year, so I'm so happy that somehow I didn't end up with him many years. The Denver offensive line doesn't look good. He's getting, he's not getting any burst or separation. He's been banged up, like 2 or 3 injuries. So yeah, if I'm Bertle, that's where I'm really nervous. If Anderson was huge for him down the stretch last year.
I think Anderson was what drove him to the championship last year.
Anderson won a lot of people championships last year. So,
I think in that crazy comeback he had against Schwab, didn't Anderson go like absolutely berserk that week?
Yeah.
All right, enough on Berto. We know how good he is.
So Berto's going to make the playoffs, but I think to get through the playoffs, he's going to need something from Anderson and Morris.
All right. Newton had a great week, scoring 32. Everyone said he was going to have an off year. He didn't have Kelvin Benjamin. His receivers are Ted Ginn and what the hell. I don't even know who his second wide receiver is, to be honest with you, but he still puts up fantasy points.
Yeah, I'm always scared off by him, and I just said I wouldn't consider him over Luck, but yeah, he produces all the time. The rushing touchdowns, the rushing yards help, and he throws to whoever's there. He's actually underrated at this point.
I mean, the trade he made with me is paying huge dividends already. He got Latavius Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, who I got from you, as we talked about earlier. I mean, they gave him 41 points this week.
Yeah, that's a win-win trade. I mean, if it might win you this year, but it's a great trade for them. So
they put Gurley in the lineup, which I was a little surprised with, just because you don't know what the hell he was going to do, and only got a point. I still liked that pick in the draft, as I said before, but I'm not sure what he's going to do until he gets completely healthy. The biggest question for me on the Nates is Jeremy Hill. He had those 2 fumbles. They pulled him out of the game. He hasn't looked great all season. What's your viewpoint on Jeremy Hill?
Yeah, I mean, as a Hill owner in another keeper league, I'm scared. I thought I wasn't as high as other people on Hill coming into the league. Like, I was in all the drafts I had, where almost every draft I was in, without keepers, I was picking like 10, 11, or 12, and I was not taking Hill at any of those spots. Something always makes me nervous about half-year flash in the pan. C.J. Anderson fits in that too, but I actually like Anderson better than Hill. But yeah, I still had him as 7th or 8th running back. I'm not sure what's going on. I saw the fumbles 2 weeks ago. I didn't see any of that game last week. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I know there was a lot of scoring in that game that puts Bernard in, but yeah, I'm definitely worried about Hill, because if nothing else, Bernard seems to be outplaying him, and any game they're behind, he's not going to have a big role. But he could still turn it on. The Bengals are a pretty good team, but yeah, I'm a little worried about Hill.
And I'm sure Berto's loving it because he has Gio, so I'm sure he wants Gio to take over that job and help his depth.
Yeah, that helped. That definitely does.
The next game we have is Stiff Arm versus JR Rules. It was a battle for the Marist Division lead. Stiff Arm was supposed to win by 14, and they ended up cruising 128-73. Stiff Arm, as Josh and I predicted, tough to beat. He's 3-0 already, and JR is dropped to 2-1. So both teams doing pretty well so far. One thing about Stiff Arm, though, very top heavy. They got 104 of their 128 points from 4 guys this week.
Yeah, well, Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, he's back to being a stud, at least after 3 games. Palmer makes a difference there, so that's huge for them. So all of a sudden they have a guy that probably, when we looked at the roster, we didn't see him as anything more than wide receiver 3 or flex. Now he's a number 1. Obviously Cobb is healthy again. Blunt is back. So yeah, I think that they're tough. If Fitzgerald keeps it up, they're tough.
I mean, I don't know how to read it, because are they tough? They got 24 points from 6 of their starters. Like, most weeks that's not going to work, but they had these 4 guys explode all in the same week. I mean, this could have easily been a 50-point week had these guys not exploded. So
yeah, that's true.
The question I had for you on Stiff Arm. I mean, they have Vereen and Eddie Royal in their flex. Like, how are you going to win a championship with that quality? We talked about depth. They just don't have the depth.
Yeah, well, I'm looking more Stiff Arm. As we're talking about Stiff Arm, I'm looking at who they're playing, who's in their lineup right now. So Murray was out last week and Ivory was out last week. So when I'm saying they're tough, I'm presuming Murray and Ivory are healthy and playing. DeMarco, that is. And they didn't have. So the fact that they scored those points without those guys playing is what impressed me. Yeah, Vereen is still in their lineup. Yeah, Royal. So maybe their depth isn't great, but if they can get that production from Fitzgerald, Cobb healthy, Manning looking. People say Manning's back, but he's not. He's looking. In between the Manning at the end of last year and the Manning from 2 years ago now. And if Murray's healthy, I think they might have the best step, but I think they have a decent team. And to score that many points without Murray,
that's a good point. I forgot that Murray was injured.
Yeah.
He hasn't looked great this season in the Eagle offense.
Yeah, so I might be still overrating him a little. And Ivory, there's a reason why Ivory has never kind of run away, with a starting job too, because he's always banged up. So they could go either way, I guess. But yeah.
And then on JR, I mean, Palmer scored 21, but everyone else pretty much had a subpar week. Josh and I talked about in the preseason, have you looked at this team? What is your viewpoint on this team? I mean, I think we've talked about it a lot, but
yeah, I'm looking at their starters here. Obviously, Palmer's been awesome this year. We all love the Abdullah pick, and by the time back to the draft, Abdullah's stock kind of rose especially after our draft. So I may have even taken him number 3. I guess I'm still glad I took Cooper, but yeah, I'm not crazy by this team. Spoiler alert: have you predicted to win by 30 this week? So, yeah, Palmer has been great for him, and I guess they've gotten enough other random production. But yeah, they have some question marks.
Yeah, I definitely see some questions here on the rules team. But all right, game 4, Sharks versus the Pieces. The Sharks were actually predicted to lose, but ended up winning pretty easily, 122-86.
Joseph Randall arrived.
That's right. I have a stat on him in a second, but the win prevented Josh from going 0-3, but it did make the Pieces go 0-3. Yeah. Randall did have those 28 points, but I looked at the stats. He got most of those points on 3 carries.
Yeah. I don't think
he gained 2 yards on his final 11 carries. So I'm not willing to say Randall is back, and that's a dominant performance. I think it was really a few carries that for touchdowns that drove him to those 28 points.
Yeah. I'm definitely not saying Randall's a wide receiver run. A running back 1. They still have a good offensive line. I think he's going to get his carries, so he's going to get his chances to have more 28.5 weeks. But yeah, he'll have some more of the weeks like he did the first couple of weeks. But
yeah, the biggest thing I noticed for them is they finally got Graham to show up.
Yep.
He got his touchdown, got 14 points. Still not as explosive as some of the games he had, obviously, in his career, but to see him get the ball rolling, and I think hopefully they're going to start looking for him in the offense and making him more of a contributor. So I think Josh could be happy probably about that.
Yeah, he was I watched a lot of that game. He was definitely a big part of the game plan for that game at least.
And Josh also has on his bench, he can get Foster back this week potentially. He's got Jeffrey probably coming back, so that's going to give him a huge boost. Next week, he's going to have, what's his name, Martavis Bryant coming back, even though he doesn't have Roethlisberger, but still another talented piece. So hopefully, and Josh, I'm sure Josh is thinking if I can get a few wins rolling and then the second half of the season, maybe he can be in playoff contention.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure he'd like to be 2-1, but 0-3 he would have been nervous at 1-2. Yeah, he gets those guys back. If Randall keeps going, if Graham's still part of the offense, there'll be something. Someone just scored for Pittsburgh. Darius Hayward-Bay available.
He is a free agent. You're right. And then the Pieces. Dalton went nuts, had 33 points, but everyone else scored below their projection. I just don't. This team, I just see them look. They're headed for that number 1 pick next year. I just don't think they have the talent to hang. I think Pat actually needs to start building for the future and making some trades.
Yeah, I am predicting him to win this week.
You are predicting him to win this week?
Yeah, because they're playing me. But
okay, there you go.
No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. I'm playing different. I'm wrong. No, I'm not predicting him to win this week. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Let's see how if they can keep doing. Yeah, I think we're kind of aligned with them. They're kind of in a weird no man's land with some of the players they have. But I don't blame them for seeing what they can do at the beginning of the year. But obviously 0-4, they need to think to the future. So let's see if they win this week.
All right, game 5 on the agenda was actually your game, the Lamacas against Huge Asshole. Both winless, and they beat you 100-81.
Yeah, it's the lowest scoring game of the week. Really only one. Of the hugely high scoring week, neither of our teams were impressive. Really, out of all the high scoring, there was one player on both of our teams that did well. It was Steve Smith. He went off. None of the rest of our players really did anything.
Well, he was the difference. I mean, he scored 30. He scored a third of their points. He scored 33 points.
Yeah. I mean, he's the reason why. I mean, there was a huge scoring week, so I think, Joe and those guys can't be too excited. They got the win, but with all the points being scored this week, they were only able to beat me, who was terrible, and it's just because of Steve Smith. But yeah, but that was good. I didn't want to win this week. Again, maybe I'm
all white meat boneless.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a commercial going off? What's going on?
Yeah, during my live scoring page, a commercial came up. Okay. So we'll see what the Lawmakers can do. I know, and Joe did a great job last week on the podcast. And again, they're I think they have a smart strategy where they're trying to kind of do both, build for the future and compete. So that win was important for them to keep in the mix for this year.
Yeah, and again, what we talked about, I like that Carlos Williams pick. I think that'll help them.
Yeah.
Your team, you had Bortles. I think he had another pretty good week at 17. Cooper he loves going to him. He had another good week. Mike Evans finally gave you actually not what you expect, but he gave you a good 12 points. But your running backs, we talked about a little bit earlier. I mean, Hyde and Miller just are nowhere to be found except for Hyde's first game of the season. I mean, how concerned are you?
Well, Hyde, obviously this is his second year. I think he looked good in that first game. The Niners are just bad, so I still have good. I think he's doing enough that the Niners can say, "Hey, he's our back of the future." We'll see. I haven't watched their games too closely actually to see if he's getting any room to run, but I'm hoping based on that first game and the volume he's getting that they're at least committed to him for the future. So that's important to me. Miller, I know he's been a little banged up, but this is concerning to me. I mean, he's really the best player on my team. If he's nothing, then that's going to really set my team back. It's going to make it real hard for me to get any wins this year. And, I was hoping, he's a 3-4 year player for me as, at least an RB2. So I'm real concerned about Miller.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I have Miller in one of my other leagues. I have good feel. I'm not ready to give up on him. So I don't think obviously you should in the dynasty league, but I think he's going to bounce back. I think he's going to have a good second half of the year.
Yeah. I hope so.
Hopefully it doesn't start against my Jets this week, but we'll see.
Okay.
And then the last game of the week was my game, Maulers against the Jugs. I was projected to win by a point, ended up winning by 33 pretty comfortably. Stayed undefeated. Jugs dropped to 2-1.
Yeah, and again, you got nice solid production, across the board pretty much, And Peterson, you have to be happy. Peterson definitely looks like he's back after last week. Charles didn't fumble, I don't think, so that's good for you. I don't think he was going to lose his job anyway, and Keenan Allen, you didn't play, but it just shows your bench. I don't know. I forget if you had Robinson instead or who you had in there. You have so much depth, but
I keep picking the wrong wide receiver too. I had Moncrief on the bench scoring 50 points, and
that's maybe your biggest challenge, and it's a good problem to have heading into the bye weeks. Is you have guys like Keenan Allen, Moncrief, Allen Robinson, guys on your bench who would be starting for a lot of teams, and you have to pick between them.
And then the Jugs, they had Macklin. They had 22.
Yeah, Macklin. Yeah, and that 22 happened after I went to bed Monday night around midnight.
I didn't see the end of that game either, so I didn't see it. I just saw it the next day.
So it was 132-77. Let's put it that way. Until maybe Charles, that might have got a garbage touchdown in that too, but it wasn't as close as it seems.
And then they got Le'Veon Bell back, which we talked about them picking up D'Angelo Williams. Though that was a nice fill-in, but I'm sure getting Bell back, he put up 19, looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's got a touchdown today.
He's already got a touchdown today, so there you go.
Yeah, so he's got 11, 12 points.
Overall, I really like this team. We talked about them in the preseason. We think they're definitely going to make the playoffs. You agree, or?
Yeah. No, they're good. I mean, they're not. They're not at your level, but they're competitive. And again, they were damn close to making it to the finals last year, maybe winning it. I'm not sure how it would have played out, but they're good.
All right, then we go into we talked about it earlier, but tough luck loser was Satan. You had the first 2 weeks. Satan was this week. High scoring team. Berto has won 2 of the 3 weeks. I never saw this. I was flicking through the site. I don't know if you've ever clicked on it, the owner's stats.
No, I look at the power rankings and stuff like that. But
it actually shows you and I thought it was interesting, as the most points earned, I guess, by coaching decisions or what they determine as coaching decisions.
Yeah, I call that the worst GM because it means it means your bench is so friggin' pitiful that when you put guys in your lineup like Cameron Jordan who get 4 points, it's still better than 80% of your bench. But
I'm only putting it up. I saw it.
I take it as an insult to my GMing more than a valid insult to my GMing more than a compliment to my coaching. But
the other thing it showed is that somehow Schraub is the only one that's ever had a perfect lineup so far this season. So
yeah.
I don't know what that means. I just thought it was interesting. I never clicked on that little tab where it said owner stats. So
I mean, this is clear what it means. Fantasy football is still mostly luck.
yes.
Schraub doesn't know that much.
All right, and the final thing, we'll go through the week 4 preview and picks. Last week I was 3-3 on my picks. On the year I'm 6-6, so not that great, but at least 500. Going through the picks this week, we'll start with the game Spinning Lamicas against the Sharks. You want to pick first, or you want me to pick first?
Well, yeah, I'm looking through my pages. This was a tough one. You can go first. This one.
I actually took the Yarmulkes on this.
Yeah, I have Lamicas by 3, but it's because I have a lot of question marks, and it looks.
I actually would like the right to change this pick. Actually, if Foster plays, I would switch it to the Sharks. But right now, I don't know if he's playing, so I'm taking the Lamicas.
Yeah, Flacco literally threw a touchdown as we were discussing this, but before that he had a terrible game, so at least he's on the board. But yeah, Alfred, he has Blue or Foster, so he has to make sure he doesn't screw that up. Like Jeffrey, so yeah, there's question marks around Jeffrey and Foster and Blue. Yeah, I mean, if all of his guys are in and healthy, then he'll win. I picked the Lamicas, and Carlos Williams definitely steps in and gives the Lamicas a very valid player in their lineup right there. So. Based on that, I have the Lamicas, but if I knew for sure who was playing for Sharks and his best possible scenario was playing, I would have gone with them.
All right, the next game I had was the Jugs and the Stash. I think this might be a high-scoring battle, but I just think the Stash are too tough. I like some of their matchups, so I'm taking the Stash.
Yeah, Stash. I have Stash by 12. Of course, we've referred to this a couple times, the rematch of the week we got together last year, me, you, Bertle, and Josh. I don't think Schraub wasn't there for some reason. Well, Bertle's mom wasn't there either, so I guess we know the reason Schraub wasn't there. But so this is a good revenge game. Obviously, we had, if you remember, we had side bets on this. I actually bet on, I think Schraub, or I don't know, somehow we bet on whether Bertle could come back or not. And Josh, there was a spread, and I lost based on the spread, even though Bertle did come back. It was a crazy day. It was fun watching that game because I think some of you were in it, but and I was out of it. But it was fun. So this is a revenge game. I have Bertle by 12, but again, just talking about Bertle's team. C.J. Anderson, he's been a bust. Terrence Williams, Ryan Matthews, if Murray is back, Freeman. So I do have Bertle winning it. He has a good, Rogers and Julio Jones and Lacey, and some of these guys are a lot Kelsey, but I won't be shocked if Schraub wins.
Yeah.
Bill already.
I wouldn't be shocked either, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Next game, I had Stiff Arm against Satan. I have Stiff Arm.
Yeah, I have Stiff Arm by 25.
Whoa.
Oh no, 5. Sorry. Yeah, no, 5, and that's mainly because the questions around Breeze, questions around Brown. Yeah, Stiff Arm by 5. Because of the questions around Breeze and the questions around Antonio Brown, particularly with Vic playing, and Brown is having his worst game in a while, but we'll see. There's still time.
I love that you're taking it up, and I'm gonna have to make my predictions by. I didn't know we had to do a point spread here, but
I just go.
I like that addition.
Yep.
Next game, I had the Pieces against the Nates. I took the Nates.
I have this as even.
And even, wow.
Yeah, this is a little tough to call. Lynch, whether Lynch plays or not, is tricky in this one. So that I kind of assumed that Lynch is playing when I did that projection. Lynch is. Yeah, it's assuming Lynch plays.
I'll put that little caveat in if Lynch. Next game, I had you against Mr. Minor. I actually, sorry to say, took Mr. Minor.
Yeah, Minor by 15.
15. Okay.
Yeah, and he does have, at least based on the lineup that he has now, I think he has Luck, Demarius Thomas. He has some top line talent that I can't match. Even Gore looking good, AJ Green. So he has the top 5 players in the match. But he does have, I think some holes with, guys like Larry Donnell, Robert Woods, guys who I see in there now, David Johnson. So guys who, and even Bolden. So he has a bunch of guys who could put up very, low points. So some of my kind of second-tier guys do well. I have a shot. But I think generally his top-tier talent, far exceeds mine. So I don't think it'll be close.
And then the last game of the week is my game. I'm against JR Rules. I took myself.
Yes, you by 20. Here's the 25. You by 25. even with Kaepernick and Heath Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to win by 25 with Brady and Gronk on my bench, but I'll just take the win. If I win with those guys on the bench, I think I'm in good shape going forward.
Yeah, again, like JR, I just see a couple guys, and then maybe he'll still switch. I'm just looking at the guys who are in the lineup now, but, needs a tight end. He's got guys like Colston, Ted Ginn, a bunch of guys, Rashad Jennings, guys who are decent, but who could do close to nothing against your lineup, which is all pretty solid. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, things can happen. He could make it close. He could pull the upset, but you could also win by 60.
All right, well.
I'm glad I don't have to listen to this on my commute because it would take until sometime in late November.
Actually, I don't know how long it was, but I don't think it was that bad. I think it was a little over an hour, so I think we're all right.
That's fun, though. Thanks I think it's a great innovation that the league does this, so kudos to you and Josh. I might try to even do it in some of my other leagues.
All right, well, cool. Thank you so much for joining, and take it easy, everyone.
Yeah, and we should try to plan. I know a few of us met. It was late in the year. 4 or 5 of us met last year, but we should at least try to find a Sunday where as many people as possible can meet. I know people are even more, you and Bert will move, so people are even more spread out than ever, but I'm open to driving somewhere central or somewhere where a lot of people can drive and where there's parking. So if anyone wants to throw out a Sunday, that's kind of the deal I have with my wife. I have everything else except for the Sundays during football season, so I can meet up if anyone wants to on a Sunday. So
no, I absolutely love that suggestion. I'd love it to come from someone else rather than me, or to be honest with you, Josh, like someone else throw out some dates and kind of gather some support. Let's make this happen, because I agree getting together is a great thing, and maybe we make some trades happen, just talk some smack.
Yeah, it'd be good to do it earlier in the year instead of during the playoffs. So yeah, I'm open to it. I don't know where everyone lives actually, so maybe I can talk to you or Bertle about it. We can try to get something organized. I know Bertle lives far. I know you don't live in Jersey.
Yeah, City. But he's always up for it, so I don't worry about Berto showing up.
Yeah, he lives near Schraub. So I mean, I'd even head down that way. But so it's cool.
All right. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right, bye, man.
Take it easy.